Well, what do you say about bringing on our special guests?
I think we should do it.
Okay. We have friend of the show, Judge Executive Michael Mueller.
Yes.
And
hello.
and a new friend, hopefully will become a friend, the Public Information Officer from FEMA, Danny Bernardy. Welcome to Frankfurt and welcome to Round 10.
Thank you for having us. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Kathy's been in the weeds on. She's been our flood expert.
Flood expert.
Yeah, that's a great title to have.
Love it.
I know you guys. Two peas in a pod.
Yeah,
over there,
exactly.
right?
Well, I live downtown, and so then just in my role of keeping people informed as far as what our crews are doing here, what's going on in the city and the county. Was out and about quite a bit during the flood event. Spent some time with Judge Mueller,
A lot of time.
Mayor Wilkinson, and really was just really impressed with the response that everybody had in the community. And now we have FEMA here. And so just give us an update on what's happening.
So, from the get-go, I just want to say thank you to everybody. I think a couple days before the storm really hit, people started showing up. And so when the mayor and I met at the emergency center, first meeting, there was literally like 20 agencies there, including FEMA, Red Cross, just people I'd never heard of before. And so I knew pretty quickly I was out of place. And so, we basically said, you all know what to do in a disaster. What do we need to do? So that's why I think a lot of people notice, the city and county really came together and spent the last few weeks working together, getting the information out there. That was our responsibility. So twice a day we'd have meetings, and we just really wanted to kind of keep everybody safe to this day. That's what our goal was. So just very appreciative of the governor, Team Kentucky for, I thought it was interesting before, the levels were changed. We were on a call with the state, and they said, well, we have a swift water team in Frankfurt. There's only 1 out of 5 in the state. And I'm thinking, well, why are they here then? Like, that's not a good sign. And then that night, there's 3 more on the way from other states.
Right.
And I looked at Lane and I said, buddy, we're in for something here.
They know something.
And they ended up doing 200 swift water rescues, which is phenomenal. So can't say enough things about first responders. The plant board was amazing too. All the things they did. It was a race against the clock. Road departments for city and county. I do want to give a shout out, and a lot of people don't realize this. Keith Lee with Lee Brick and Block called the night before, and he said, I can have 600 sandbags to you all by noon. And I called him back, and I said, that's great. I said, but we need them before then. Like, it's happening.
It's happening.
And you know what? He didn't stop running. I think they brought over 5,000. And I couldn't tell you how many houses downtown they saved. Because the water levels were right up to the top of those bags. So, but it was really neat watching the county road departments and the city road departments all working together. Inmates came out from the jail. It was all hands on deck. So it was good.
We appreciate your help, and we got the North Carolina safety and rescue team in to get their boats when we needed help with getting a cable.
Right, running the fiber
cable across the river.
Yeah.
And because we had quite a few people without any telecom services.
To say the least.
And I think people would do without water before they do without telecom.
Believe it or not, I didn't really hear from anybody. I was really surprised. But, when they called and they said,
I feel like we were all doing a good job keeping everybody informed. This is what's happening.
Right.
We're on it. Just hang on.
But I think people really realize, there's over 514 homes in Franklin County and Frankfurt affected. So 90-some% of this community could say, was there a flood? We're not affected. But I think people are compassionate, and they really came together to to really help their neighbors. So that was good to see.
Well, I would say the people who knew there was a flood were the ones who just came down to looky-loos.
We
had a lot of those.
We had a big problem with looky-loos. We talked about that often. But we're very appreciative. On Friday, I got a call from Congressman Comer, and he had talked to the president himself. We got the FEMA thing signed, declaration, I guess you call it.
And that's for individuals?
It's for individuals. They still haven't done the public, so we're still keeping our fingers crossed on that because we have a lot of damage. But I can't thank FEMA enough. I mean, at was it Comcast? No, what's the Comic-Con? No? What's the thing on Saturday? The kickoff event the governor has.
Common
Fest.
Common Fest.
There we go. We
Saturday.
finally got it. Sorry, let's get a little tired here. It's been a couple 3 weeks. Charades. But next thing I knew, FEMA's here.
Yeah.
The bus is here. And they're here.
We saw them there.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you to FEMA for literally showing up. And I went out to Big Eddie yesterday, and they were already boots on the ground knocking on doors.
Yeah.
So that was impressive. So Danny, if you don't mind, why don't you talk a little bit about just briefly what you all are doing, here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like today alone, for example, we are standing up 2 disaster recovery centers are opening just today, and 8 have been opened so far. We're on track to meet that number that the governor asked for, the 13 for the 13 designated counties by the 30th. There will be something in place, if a mobile or an actual brick and mortar DRC, disaster recovery center.
Thank you.
He
was talking to me earlier.
The federal government, they've got acronyms.
Exactly.
Sometimes I have to look them up all the time myself, But I was just looking at some of the numbers already. Dispersed over $1 million just the first couple of days here for the April floods, right? Which is what we're talking about. But it's important not to gloss over the fact that this is the second major disaster. I don't have to tell you guys here in Kentucky in the first few months of the year.
Right.
And so in addition to those 13 that will be open, there are the 11 that are open from the February floods, and anybody can go to any one. And God forbid you were hit twice.
Right.
Just on that note, as a FEMA employee, and you all go out and do these things, are you seeing more and more of these disasters happening more often?
I really can't say.
Yeah.
I personally have only been with the agency for 4 years.
Okay.
But
I just feel like we've been hit hard the last few years.
Yeah. Certainly. Yeah, and that takes an emotional toll on people. So yes, that came in Friday night, Saturday morning. We were able to take the Woodford County DRC. It already was stood up for the February floods, and then we could just open up the doors and say, hey, come on in. Right. We've got one open already. And then along with the other 12 that have been opened up, especially for the April floods.
For that event.
It's confusing. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So
it's more than I want to know about.
Yeah,
sure. It really is. Like I told some of your counterparts, I was like, I hope I never see you again.
Right.
And there's no disrespect there. They've done great, but it's just
we were happy in our ignorance.
That's exactly right. I don't want to know about disasters.
So, what kind of assistance can people, like we're talking about boots on the ground and Big Eddie? What kind of assistance can those people expect, and how does that work?
Nobody's recovery ever looks the same. There's no cookie cutter way to recovery, right? We always say that because, for somebody it might be, they lost a vehicle. Somebody might just have lost a sheet of drywall and they don't think they deserve the assistance. And it's like, if you were affected by the floods, there's a lot of this, I don't have it as bad as the person across the street mentality.
Right.
Maybe I don't. Maybe you do.
Yeah.
Let us help you determine that.
Yeah.
And it might not be as lengthy of a process as people think or somehow intimidated by or whatever. If you're on the fence, give us a call, give us a chance to help you out.
Right.
It can look like there's a one-time serious payment for serious needs assistance. That's a flexible payment for serious needs. And housing assistance, of course. I think some people might not realize they were displaced by the storms, had to stay in an Airbnb or hotel. That's reimbursable potentially, and all other kinds of assistance.
So you guys kind of walk through you're asking questions about what was your experience like? Did you have this? Did you have that?
Exactly. Imagine it's like a triage. We come in and our individual assistants professionals will talk to you empathetically, hear your story. And you don't have to come into a brick and mortar place, to a disaster recovery center. You can give us a call, 800-621-3362. You can visit us online at disasterassistance.gov, or you can download our app and do it there.
And then another question. Can people get that assistance even if they didn't have flood insurance?
I can say that if you're uninsured or underinsured, you should come talk to us and see what you're eligible for.
Okay.
I can say that flood insurance doesn't cover mold damage.
Right.
So if you were affected by the floods, you want to try to get mold remediation started as soon as you can and be very careful wearing N95 and the PPE.
Okay. All right. What you got?
No, it's all
top that one.
I guess we're done. No, that's great. We certainly appreciate you guys being here on the ground, and wish the judge said, we wish that we didn't see you so often, and we'd love for you to close your office and never come back.
We do say, it is our job to work ourselves out of a job. Get out of here.
Yeah. Because there'll be something somewhere else.
Right.
I think another thing people have asked about, and FEMA's here, and we had another meeting with, this is right, NCFS, does that sound right? If I got that right or not. But anyways, there's some buyout programs going on,
no,
because
right.
I know in Franklin County, we have 6 homes that are condemned.
Yeah.
And so we've had a lot of calls, will they buy back and things like that. So there's 1 or 2 programs going right now. If you live in the floodplain and you're interested and you just had enough, I believe they're offering full market value before the storm, before the disaster. So that is something to talk about also. I know we've talked individually with the 6 homeowners who are affected, because there's a huge possibility they're not going to be able to rebuild the banks of the river and things like that.
Right.
Doesn't make financial sense. So so that's good for people to know also, that is an option out there if, like you said, your home has too much damage. And I've talked to...
I can't believe it was only 6 that have been condemned.
I know. It seems like it should be more.
Yeah.
And so
because I saw a lot.
Our building inspectors are literally
roof.
every day.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But just because up to the roof, a lot of it's about the bank stabilization.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So can the house be rebuilt?
Yeah.
I think a lot of the flood insurance and people were assuming it was going to take care of their belongings, but it's really just for the structure.
Right.
So unless you had structural damage, there's not much that's going to do. So I think a lot of people have learned about insurance through this. Even, some insurance agents who didn't know things. So it's been an interesting thing, to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, we hope that everybody is getting the assistance that they need. And
so there's the MARC place, right?
Yeah, so that's at 827 Louisville Road. Okay. So that's pretty much the hub now where everyone needs to go for information. Okay. That's up, I think Yeagle's used to be there. Used to be a Save-A-Lot behind Casa Fiesta. So they're pretty much, I think there's 10 or 12, 15 agencies in there, Red Cross, FEMA, Food Pantry, things like that.
It's
so
a clearinghouse to kind of...
Basically, if you've been affected at all, like Danny said, by this disaster, go and just talk to them. Even if you think it's not a big deal or you don't have that much problems. But they've been very, very helpful, and I can't thank these agencies enough for being there. It's all hands on deck.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's so much easier than having to run around town or call 10 different numbers, right?
Yeah.
You'd just be able to do it all there.
Absolutely.
9 a.m. to 7 p.m. is the hours they have there, 827 Louisville Road.
Yep.
And then a new thing is the Relief Collection Center on Holmes Street.
Yeah, so luckily I had a good friend of mine, Todd and Francis, who had 4,000 square feet of space, and they donated it basically.
As one does.
Yeah, but not everybody does. I had phone calls. Hey, we have space if you need it for rent. And I'm like, come on, it's a disaster. So, anyways, basically what they're taking there is furniture. Yeah. Household appliances. Refrigerators, washer and dryers, coffee maker, anything. I know. Mattresses, they'd rather them be new. Right. Not want to get into used mattresses at all. But it's just I don't think they've really worked out the exact hours, but they'll be taking intake and then distributing too. I had a call or two yesterday for some people in Lexington that saw it on a TV channel there, and they said, we don't have a way to bring it, but can somebody get it? Yeah. So there is a church organization, I think once a week, they're going to take an enclosed trailer and pick up.
Go around it.
And then once we have enough and people, it's going to be a long process for somebody to rebuild. Yeah. So when they're ready for that, then they'll start distributing. And so we are excited about that to be able to do.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
Excellent. And that is at 209 Holmes Street.
209 Holmes Street. It's kind of behind it. I think it's, Warwick? Behind it, that runs behind it. Anyways, it's easy to get to. Warsaw, thank you. Yep. So it's right around. I think they're putting some signs up next day or two. Okay. So kind of direct people.
Nice. Okay.
Yep.
There's questions about electrical inspections, right, for folks that had their power disconnected for safety reasons, right? And that process is still happening.
Yeah, this has probably been one of the most cumbersome processes, just because there's a lot of people, well, this county's not doing that or this county's not doing that. So I had our electrical inspectors, because we do it for city and county, and so we had them reach out to the state inspector and say, okay, what are you requiring? And could we have to go per code? So we had a really good meeting, but then some people were like, it's very cumbersome because we have to replace our wire also because it's been underwater. So we came up with a way that we're trying to get people back in their homes. So there's a lot of homes where the upper level is livable. And so the conversation we had as of Friday morning would be, basically, if you had a livable space, you could pull the wires out of your box that were in the basement, say, and then he'll turn you on upstairs, and then it'll give you time to work on the downstairs. So we're really trying to accommodate everybody's needs and get everybody back in their home. So as of Friday, it was working well. Knock on wood. I have had no calls, complaints. It was a long week last week because everybody was getting frustrated. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's been everyone's trying to do the best thing, but people have to understand we still need to keep people safe, because we're in a meeting and like one of our inspectors said, he said, last thing I want is to turn somebody's electric on and we have volunteers in the, let's say, basement or first floor, and a kid grabs a wire or something. You know, there's still a possibility for that. So we're just trying to be responsible and keep everybody safe.
Yep. So once people get their electrical inspections done, and you can do that by calling Planning and Zoning at 875-8701. Then you can call us here at the Frankfort Plant Board. It's 352-4372, and we can get your meter turned back on.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we're gonna have a party in a couple of weeks.
A party.
Yeah.
Celebration and benefit
So
concert.
basically what we had talked about, there's the handout right there. So last year we started celebrating Franklin County's birthday, and we had a really big deal last year for the 229th.
It was nice. Yeah,
it
I like
was.
you. Okay.
And this year is 230th. And so we've been planning to do something, but then the disaster happened. So we decided to turn this into a benefit concert. So the old mayor, Bill May, has a lot of connections in the music industry. So we're doing this with the city. It's a partnership. And so they're going to bring their big stage out. Bill has, I think 15 artists coming, 2 bands that will play.
Super bands,
yeah.
All-star bands.
So we have food trucks, beer trucks, I think some bourbon coming. There's actually going to be a cornhole tournament that starts, I think, at 1 o'clock that anybody can get into in one of the pavilions. So it'll be just a great event. So we've turned this into just a benefit for the community fund.
Nice.
Yep. So we're excited about that. Just pray for good weather.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we need.
Yes, definitely.
What we need is good weather.
And yeah, we were there last year. Had a lot of good food.
Oh, it was great. It was a great time.
Yeah. It was a big event last year. So, but I also want to remind everybody about the community fund. So early on, people from across the state, from other regions, reached out and they said, we want to donate to Franklin County, Frankfort. I know the governor has a relief fund set up for the state, but they were very much like, we want to do this. So I appreciate the Bluegrass agency that handles a lot of the nonprofit things to kind of add in this as an arm for them. I know Harry Carver and a couple other people.
Yeah, we had Harry on the other day last week.
Harry and Barry. And then I want to thank ROSM because they're the agency that's going to help. They're taking applications now. So I know last we looked was 130,000. I've had multiple big contributors say they're probably going to come to the event with some checks.
Oh, nice.
So that would be cool to pull them on stage. So I think that's going to grow pretty quickly, we hope. And then in the fall, I know we'll talk to the plant board also, but we're looking to do maybe a really big thing in the fall, concert style, maybe a national act to really kind of blow it up.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Blow it up.
But since the 10th we had scheduled anyways, so we're just
felt natural.
It felt natural for what we're trying to do here.
Sure,
so,
absolutely.
So
Well,
Sounds like a good time.
Yep.
They always talk about how communities come together and, Frankfurt Strong and all that stuff, but it's so cool to actually see it happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's definitely been the case here.
Well, you know what's interesting? So when the governor invited us to one of his press conferences, the mayor and I went, and we both got up there and spoke, which was really neat. Little just nervousness.
Sure.
But I turned around and I said, Governor, this is one thing you don't think about when you run for local office.
Right.
A national disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But afterwards, one of the, it might have been the head of the FEMA, I can't remember the gentleman's name, came up and he said, I just want to say thank you. And I was like, what do you mean thank you? He said, for a city and county coming together to work during a disaster, because a lot of people know, it's weird anyways that this state has 120 counties.
Sure.
But it's weird. I couldn't imagine you all, FEMA, having to work a disaster where the mayor and the county judge don't talk. And they said that happens a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And I mean, it just adds another layer of difficulty, So I'm very appreciative that we have a good relationship and we were able to kind of pull together and everyone just really worked together. It was great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We want to thank Ray Kinney.
Yeah,
and-
emergency management locally. Yeah.
Yeah.
They even brought Tommy Russell out
I
of
know.
retirement. Yeah.
Tommy, what are you doing here?
Yeah. It was literally all hands on deck.
It was.
Yeah. So, but I appreciate Danny for being here this morning. Anything
Yeah.
else we missed, or do you want to add anything?
Well, just also the partnerships. Just a second, just to echo that, it has been absolutely amazing, like you said. So, no, just thank you for having me here today to get the word out. And then also just one other thing, which is if someone receives a denial letter, don't be discouraged, because it's like not necessarily the end of the road.
Okay.
Oftentimes we're just missing a document or something
Yeah.
was entered incorrectly. So
Okay.
don't be discouraged. Read that letter from top to bottom carefully.
Okay.
And give us a call or come and see us. Okay.
Okay.
And
Well,
appeal if
yeah.
you don't agree.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to add, and I met the gentleman on Saturday morning at Common Fest, now that I
Yes.
remember that, Small Business Association. So they are offering very low interest loans. So
Okay.
if you need $20,000 to get your house back together, I think it's like 2.5%. Even a commercial is like 4%. Very, very low. So they're in the resource center also. So that's
Okay.
good to know, because
Okay, yeah.
I think people. It doesn't seem like a lot of people had flood insurance. Just
Right.
wasn't available. Didn't want to pay for
Well,
it. So
there were parts of Frankfurt that hadn't been hit. I mean, because now we've had the flood wall,
right. Yeah.
and but then it was just more than we've had in 40 something.
Yeah, I mean, you look at
years.
the whole Paul Sawyer Drive,
Yeah.
for instance,
Yeah.
or Bell Point. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Those areas, and,
Yeah.
and people were hit hard. So,
Yeah.
So I think again, I think it's important, and even the state representative for emergency management, before it even started, she says it comes in phases. So it starts out, it's exciting, it's interesting, it's you don't know what's going to happen. Then the storm hits, and then it goes away. And then a lot of times community forgets about the rebuild,
Right.
which is
Right.
easy to do.
Right.
Sun comes out, Derby's coming.
Right.
People aren't thinking about the ones that are displaced.
Right.
Right.
So I think that's important to keep in
Keep it
mind
going.
as a community, that we still need to embrace
It's
everybody.
long-term.
It's
Yeah.
long term.
This is the hard part.
This is the hard. And that was the point of it.
Yeah.
This it's not like it is the hard part. So I think everyone just needs to stick together and keep working hard.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Well-
Do you want to hit the question of the day?
Yeah, I mean, you guys, do you have any lottery aspirations? If you
I'm gonna ask Danny.
if you hit the
Go ahead.
lottery,
Lottery aspirations. Well, I would just give it all back. That's what I would do, right?
as the people come in.
That's not what I was going to say.
I'm not supposed to talk about myself.
No,
on these things.
right.
Here we go.
That's well played. I felt
Yeah.
bad.
Turned red.
I felt bad even
I should
asking.
have gone first. That didn't go
Okay.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, I love
That
this.
aside.
Yeah, that aside.
If that wasn't an option.
Thanks, Danny. Appreciate
Sorry.
that one. Yeah. I love the idea of paying things off.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I'll probably pay all close family members debt off. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Siblings, stuff like that.
Oh.
What about people that you do TV shows with?
Your buddies with.
Exactly. I think giving back is a huge thing. Obviously that's why I'm doing this role here.
Yeah.
I love travel. We've already done
Oh,
all
yeah.
the states with our kids. Love travel. But I'm kind of a hot rod car kind
Okay.
of enthusiast. So
That
my
might be
wife
fun.
probably wouldn't want to hear this, but because she gives me grief all the
Yeah.
time, like you don't really need that.
Yeah.
But there would probably
won
be
the lottery. Right.
exactly.
You know.
So
You've been responsible, and then you just splurge.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
One treat.
that's an interesting question of the day, and
Yeah.
I'm interested to follow that mother-son to see how
yeah.
they spend
How
that
they-
160
Yeah.
some million. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, let's. We talked about the event on May 10th. Fingers
That's right.
crossed on the weather. I don't think we have a forecast out that far. We do have Derby. We got Derby tomorrow, Oaks
Yeah.
Friday, Derby on Saturday. So let's see maybe what the weather holds in store for us.
Okay.
In the coming days.
And that is at Lakeview Park, by the way. If I didn't
May
Yes.
mention
10th.
that.
And we'll
Right.
keep it in the community.
Yeah, we'll keep
That'd
talking
be
about it
great.
all next
Yeah.
week.
Sounds good.